On a sun-drenched afternoon, the kind that makes sidewalks feel like frying pans and gets ice cream trucks singing their tunes at double speed, a small makeshift lemonade stand appeared on the corner of Maple and 3rd. It was the kind of stand that had been cobbled together by young hands in the early morning hours, with loose planks of wood leaning against one another like uncertain friends. A crooked sign read Lemonade 50C/, but it wasn't just any lemonade. This one had a story. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Behind the stand stood Lucy, a 7-year-old with pigtails and a determined face, the kind of expression that suggested she was out there for more than pocket change. Lucy was there to make a difference. Her lemonade venture wasn't about earning money for toys or trips. It was about helping to fund her little brother's chemotherapy treatments. He was only 4, and the medical bills were climbing like an escalator, set to turbo speed. Lucy's parents did their best, working long shifts and double shifts and all the shifts in between, but the expenses kept growing like weeds in a summer garden. Lucy poured each cup with the kind of seriousness most kids reserve for things like figuring out why Santa's handwriting looks like their mom's. She smiled at every passerby, hoping they'd stop, but she wasn't quite the saleswoman yet. She politely asked if people wanted lemonade, and when they did, she poured it out like she was handling gold dust. And maybe to her it was. The morning passed without much excitement. A few neighbors stopped by, dropped in some spare change, and gave her those looks adults give when they're trying to be encouraging but don't really know what to say. Around lunchtime, just when Lucy's spirits were starting to droop under the heat and weight of the situation, something unexpected happened. Down the street, a bright blue convertible pulled up, and out stepped Caitlin. Yes, the Caitlin. Caitlin had one of those big names that everyone in the town knew. She wasn't a celebrity in the traditional sense, but her internet presence had ballooned thanks to a viral dance video that got picked up by some influencer last summer. Since then, she'd become an icon for all things fun and spontaneous in the small town. Her wild hair and even wilder personality were as much a fixture as the town's giant clock tower that no one could agree on whether it worked or not. Caitlin didn't walk. She strolled with the kind of confidence that only comes from being entirely at home in your own skin or maybe from regularly dancing in front of millions of people on social media. She sauntered right up to Lucy's stand, the way a hawk might zero in on a stray picnic sandwich. There was a sort of silent electricity in the air as a few heads turned to see what Caitlin would do. Lucy, a little nervous, gave her usual greeting, asking if Caitlin wanted some lemonade. But Caitlin didn't just want lemonade. No, she wanted to make a splash. Caitlin paused, looking at the lemonade stand like she was sizing it up for an impromptu renovation. She started chatting, not with the usual perfunctory phrases like, "nice stand," or "how's business." Instead, Caitlin leaned in and asked Lucy what had inspired her to sell lemonade. Lucy, not used to being asked much beyond her age, and what grade she was in, looked up and blinked before explaining her brother's situation. Caitlin listened intently, giving Lucy her undivided attention, nodding at every sentence like she was catching every word, as if it might float away. It was in that moment Caitlin did something that caught everyone off guard. She asked Lucy how much she wanted for the stand, not just for the lemonade, but for the whole stand, sign, table, planks, and all. Lucy, a bit confused, answered in the only way she knew how, 50 cents a cup. "All right," Caitlin replied with a mischievous grin, "but how about I buy everything for $50? Lucy's eyes widened like two saucers. She wasn't sure if Caitlin was joking or not, but Caitlin was already pulling out a wad of cash. A murmur went through the small crowd that had gathered, people shifting on their feet like they were part of an audience waiting for a big reveal. Lucy's fingers fumbled a little as she took the money, looking at Caitlin with the awe of someone who's watching magic unfold in real time. Caitlin handed over the cash and made a big deal of it, raising the money up like a prize, which got a round of applause and a few chuckles from onlookers. But Caitlin wasn't done yet. She turned to the crowd and, with the flair of a carnival barker, announced she was reopening the stand under new management and that she'd match every cup bought with a donation of her own. If Lucy had been shocked before, she was practically floating now. For the next hour, Caitlin worked the lemonade stand like a seasoned pro. She made jokes with the customers, encouraging them to buy extra cups, promising that every penny would help Lucy's brother. People lined up, drawn by the scene of this local star mixing lemonade and handing out cups like they were exclusive tickets to the event of the summer. Caitlin's natural charisma turned what had been a simple stand into a pop-up party, with people laughing, chatting, and making donations left and right. Lucy didn't know what to do except keep pouring lemonade, which she did with newfound energy. Caitlin would casually lean over to help, occasionally whispering bits of advice like, "A little more ice goes a long way," or "Remember to look them in the eyes. Eye contact sells lemonade." Lucy nodded, taking the advice as if it were ancient wisdom. The stand wasn't fancy, the lemonade wasn't gourmet, but the entire atmosphere had shifted from one of quiet determination to something hopeful, even joyful. Caitlin never once treated it like she was doing anyone a favor. She laughed as if she were genuinely having the best time, calling people over by name and giving them gentle nudges to chip in a little more. There was no big speech, no dramatic music, just a girl with a knack for making things happen, and a kid who, for the first time in a while, felt like maybe everything would be okay. As the afternoon turned to evening and the sun started dipping behind the buildings, Caitlin finally called it a day. She helped Lucy count the money, and by the end, the pile was a lot larger than Lucy had ever expected. Caitlin quietly added her own donation on top of what had been collected, but she did it in a way that only Lucy noticed, giving a quick wink and a whispered, "Just between us." And just like that, Caitlin gathered her things and got back in her car. The crowd cheered, thanking her as she left, and she waved out the window like she was saying goodbye to old friends. Lucy stood there, clutching the money and watching the convertible disappear down the street, feeling like something extraordinary had just happened, though she couldn't quite put it into words. Over the next few days, people talked about the lemonade stand on every corner of town. Not just about the money raised, but about how one unexpected visitor had taken a simple idea and turned it into something larger. There were plenty of jokes about Caitlin going into the lemonade business, and rumors about where she'd pop up next, but beneath the jokes was a sense of pride in the community and a newfound belief in the power of small acts. Lucy, of course, became a bit of a local legend herself. People stopped by her house to drop off more donations or offer words of encouragement. Her parents were overwhelmed, both by the money and by the realization that their little girl had managed to inspire so many people with a lemonade stand and a big heart. The story spread beyond the town, eventually making its way to local news channels and even catching the attention of a few national ones. But that's the part of the story that came later. For now, all that mattered was that on a hot day, when things seemed tough and uncertain, a girl selling lemonade met someone who was willing to not just stop and listen, but to dive in and help in a way no one expected. The lemonade stand didn't fix everything. Life wasn't suddenly easy, and Lucy's brother still had a long road ahead of him. But for a brief moment, a little corner of the world felt lighter, and hope hung in the air as thick as the scent of fresh lemons. Caitlin's visit wasn't about her fame or even the money. It was about the connection made between a kid trying to help her brother and a young woman who saw an opportunity to turn that effort into something unforgettable. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.